All right, you're tuned into Asheville FM Music Sessions. Coming up right now, we have a feature interview with a band that is playing this Friday at Jack of the Wood. Talking about the Egg Eaters, straight out of Black Mountain on Asheville FM Music Sessions. Egg Eaters feature interview coming up.
This is Andy.
I am Nat.
I'm Colleen Rose.
Hey, this is Johnny of the Egg Eaters, and you are listening to Asheville FM Music Sessions on 103.3.
I'm Colleen Rose, and I do lead vocals and occasionally guitar and synthesizer.
I'm Nat Justice. I do guitar.
I'm Andy Gibbon. I play guitar and bass.
And Cinnamon's not here, but she plays drums, and I'm Johnny, and I do some bass and some singing. For the Egg Eaters. The band, the Egg Eaters, was formed in Black Mountain in 2014, and we are a garage rock punk band. And we started with Nat Justice. He lives across the street from us, a dirt road, and he brought his drums over to our house one fateful Thanksgiving, dropped them off, and Cinnamon learned the drums, and then we were a band. So the Egg Eaters released 2 EPs in 2019, which was Trash Morning and Gimme Gimme Gimme, and we also released another EP on KK Records over in Istanbul, and we had some singles out on Godless America Records, which had Bank of America, and we had Johnny, which is a Suicide cover over on KK Records too.
And that's coming out when?
That just came out. The single for the Suicide cover compilation just came out in December of 2019. We had Johnny on that compilation album.
What are your favorite songs on the Gimme 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 EP and why?
My favorite song is Saraband because it has unique, interesting chords that Nat found from a famous composer, and it's about John's sister-in-law. So I think the story is interesting, and I like the name.
Got a sister, she moved to Hollywood.
Hey, this is Colleen Rose of the Egg Eaters, and you are listening to Asheville FM Music Sessions on 103.3.
Hey, this is Nat of the Egg Eaters, and you were listening to Asheville FM Music Sessions on 103.3. Hey, this is Nat. One of my favorite songs on the Egg Eaters Gimme 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 EP is Cloak and Dagger, because it's a kind of minimalist song that I think it plays to our strengths, and it lets John and Colleen's vocals come forward.
This is Andy from the Egg Eaters, and my favorite track on Gimme Gimme Gimme, our new EP, is Ghosts. Just a really interesting interplay between drums and bass, really airy vocals, but interesting.
Hello, this is Johnny of Egg Eaters, and you're listening to Asheville FM Music Sessions on 103.3. So Colleen was friends with Cinnamon. Cinnamon's my wife and the drummer. And then we were like, I'm sure Colleen will dispute this, but we were looking for members to join the band. And Cinnamon was like, Colleen, we're starting a band. Why don't you come along? And she came along, and she never stopped coming along. She was just like, grabbed the mic and then walked in there, and she was like, all right, I'm going to front this band. From like day one, we were all like, all right, I guess so. I guess that's going to work. So that's how Colleen walked into the band.
Colleen, what's your musical background? What were you doing when the Egg Eaters found you?
I was taking voice lessons at the Asheville Music School with Amy Ray and Hillary Trumpler. And before that, I had my most recent singing experience was with SingStar and Rock Band with my family on the PlayStation 2. And then I come from a background of piano and clarinet in high school and chorus in high school and that sort of thing. So I kind of put it down for 20 years or 20 plus years and then picked it back up.
How did you join the band, Nate?
Well, I had been the neighbor of the Kennedys and had bored them for years with my stories about being a drummer in a punk rock band way back in the day when I dropped out of college to move to England to pursue stardom and failed miserably. So they finally called me on it and said, hey, you still got some drums, bring them on over. I did so, and then I said, well, I got a guitar. I've been plunking around on the guitar for a little while, so what the heck, let's start jamming. Next thing I knew, it turned into a band. I had no idea that was going to happen, or I probably would have kept my mouth shut back when. But here we are now.
Now, Andy, you played in other bands before Egg Eaters, right?
Played in a number of bands around Asheville. A lot of them, I played bass in a lot of Americana and singer-songwriter type bands, folky type things, but was really excited to get involved with the Egg Eaters to play just heavy rock and roll again like I did back when I was in high school. Played bass a little bit, but switched over to guitar, which was relatively new for me. Just a new experience, a new way to play music in the Asheville music scene.
And in terms of what there was rock, there were, you know as well as I do, there were like basement shows. There were all those basement shows in like West Asheville. There were trashy shows in the auditorium, and then Fleetwood's emerged. And then all of a sudden you had like an explosion of, I think, some of the best music in the country, starting with like Kitty Tsunami having their pop sounds, and then Tongues of Fire and Styrofoam Turtles and The Power and all those bands just kind of exploded onto the scene. And now I can name like 24 fantastic bands that anyone should go out and watch at any time. And we have a really like vital, really important, really energetic underground scene, which is wonderful. Like underground band which had a lot of integrity like 5-6 years ago, and they were on top of the scene, and Derek was like, I want to do like a collective, I want to collect all the musicians together and support them. And so for a couple of years we did the Asheville Rock Collective. We tried to put out a couple of like collections of albums which failed, and we tried to put on a series of shows. We did put on 2 series of shows in Asheville Rock Collective, but the idea was, again, like if all the bands who are underground, who are like really true to their own voice rather than trying to find an audience, like trying to express their art very true to themselves, we could grab all those bands and like showcase them. We felt like Asheville should pay attention, and a larger audience should pay attention to them.
Yeah, the nice thing about the Asheville music scene is you can find anything anywhere, and there's a lot of new venues such as Fleetwood's, John mentioned, and then Static Age Records, which is fun as well. And I mean, pretty much any night. Auditorium, of course, has been around for a long time. And some of these, what I really like is some of these punk rock bands are moving up to places like the Grey Eagle and playing a Saturday night at Grey Eagle. So I just think it's a great place to be, and pretty much any night you're here, you can find good music. And we have people come in from out of town. We're like, let's go down. Even Grey Eagle patio shows on a Wednesday night are great. So there's lots to see everywhere, and it's always worth it to check out live music.
Yeah, I'd only been exposed to the music scene since I've been in the band. I had sort of dropped out of circulation, and it's been eye-opening to me to see how good a lot of these bands are. There's bands like Hard Rocket and Brothers who have really impressed me with how good they are. And I think it's good for all the bands to have that kind of competition and the notion that there's these other really good bands out there, and you better bring your A game when you go to play with people. So it's all good.
My favorite part of the Asheville music scene is the collaboration amongst all the musicians here. That everybody plays in a couple of different bands. Even in the Egg Eaters, we have a couple of spin-off projects from Bad Banker and other little side projects to explore other sort of musical personalities amongst the same people. But a lot of us play with other musicians and other musicians' bands. One of my favorite things about gigging is playing shows with other bands, being able to hang out, swap out different musicians, playing a bunch of different genres. It's just really fertile, and everybody's really into what everybody else is doing.
The Egg Eaters started like 5-6 years ago, and it was me, Cinnamon, and Nat. I think with Cinnamon's sister, we had Grace on bass in early days of the Egg Eaters, and me and Cinnamon thought up really bad band names, just like really cliched, terrible band names. And our kids, we have 3 kids, thought we were stupid and hilarious and dumb, and were making fun of us. And they were like, "We're forming a band." And then we were like, "Yeah, what's your band called?" And they were like, "It's called the Egg Eaters." And we were like, me and Cinnamon were like, "Oh man, that is a much better name than anything we've ever thought of." So we stole our kids' band's name, and that's why we're the Egg Eaters.
But we played one show, sort of our Spinal Tap moment, at the Mothlight. And it was a cold winter night. And we were playing with lots of tricks because we lacked musically, so we made up for it with gimmicks like costumes and lights. And at this show, a smoke machine. And we were playing a show, and it was my job to operate the smoke machine, but we were really into the song, and we were really rocking. It sounded great, and the smoke machine got jammed in the on position. But we were playing so hard that nobody noticed that it was on for the 4 minutes that we were playing the song, until the sound guy came alongside of the stage and said, hey, turn that smoke machine off. So we turned it off and looked up, and the room was so full of smoke that you couldn't see the beer in your hand in front of you. And they had to open up all the windows, and it was snowing outside, and it was freezing cold, but they had to get the smoke out so the fire, the sprinkler system didn't come on. And it was just a classic Spinal Tap rock and roll moment.
Was that the Umbrella Show?
That was the Umbrella Show, right. You probably remember that.
Yeah, you took the photos from that show. We had umbrellas, and then the concept was we had clear umbrellas. We hit the smoke machine, and the smoke would catch in the umbrellas, and it didn't. And and the sound guy had to run out to us and be like, "Turn it off." No one could see anything. You literally couldn't see. I couldn't see the beer at my foot. I could not see the lower half of my body. That's how bad the smoke machine was. It's also one of my favorite shows.
We did.
So in the start of 2020, the Egg Eaters are going to be working on a couple of EPs. One is a Colleen-led project, and then hopefully in February, March, the Egg Eaters will get back in the studio and produce our third EP. Untitled. We're not sure what the 5 songs are, but we're looking forward to getting back in the studio and producing our next kind of series of songs.
What's the Colleen-led project?
Colleen Rose in the Something, or Rosie in the Something. So I'm a child of the 80s, and I'm a love song nut, and so I kind of have all these slow songs that I bring to Egg Eaters and don't really work, and there's not a lot of back and forth, and I've been taking up piano recently and doing a few open mics, and so I got a few of these awesome band members to agree to join me, and we're going to go to El Rancho Morbido Studios with Ed Medill, who is wonderful, and he said, we're going to actually probably put out a recording first, and then we're going to look for some venues and just take the next thing around town. So I might be behind a piano for a change.
What's the project called again, and who's in it? And what?
Rosie and Rosie and the Rats. Rosie and the
Put it
Rats.
on tape now.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's too late now. Now it's settled.
John's my producer, Andy's my guitarist, and Nat is my drummer. And I'll be on piano.
There's an exhibit at Pack Memorial Library in the auditorium called Let Us Now Listen. I spent the last 18 months in Western North Carolina, Southern Appalachians, talking and recording oral histories of people who are either currently using in recovery or in that kind of gray area in between. And I'm collecting 100 stories, and I'm also matching some of the storytellers with area photographers like Keith Wright or Scott Sturdy, and we're doing an exhibit of portraits and stories, oral histories, both printed and collected, And also some of the storytellers will be there as this concept of living library. So you'll get there at 6 o'clock, you'll be able to walk into the auditorium, there'll be spotlights on 4 individuals who are ready and willing to share their stories and to answer questions as kind of a living library exhibit, as well as the portraits, the photographic portraits, and the collection, the mass collection of oral histories that I've got over the past year and a half. Hey, Egg Eaters are playing next at Jack of the Wood, January 24th with Old North State. Come on by. The Egg Eaters are playing at the auditorium on February 15th with Never Understand. So come on down for that show too. Yeah.
The Egg Eaters are playing January 24th at Jack of the Wood and February 15th at the auditorium.
Okay.
Hey, this is Andy.
Hi, this is Nat.
This is Colleen Rose.
And Cinnamon couldn't be here, and this is Johnny from the Egg Eaters, and you're listening to 103.3 Asheville FM.
All right, that was the Egg Eaters feature interview on Asheville FM Music Sessions. They'll be playing, Egg Eaters will be playing with Old North State this Friday, January 24th at Jack of the Wood. Right now, here's right on top of the 6 o'clock hour on this brisk Tuesday evening, and it's time for the Asheville FM Daily Event Calendar.
Hey everybody, this is Nathan D. Duval, and you're listening to Asheville FM at WSFMLP 103.3 Asheville. And this is the concert and entertainment calendar for Tuesday, January 21st.